Welcome back, scholars. Today, we're going to be discussing about absolute value, and we're going to be tying absolute value with equations and inequalities. So what exactly is an absolute value? Absolute value is simply stating that on a number line, the distance that number is from zero. So let's do a couple of examples, or just give you a little breakdown. So this is your number line, nice and neat. And let's pick one number. I'll pick 4, just the negative side, because to the left represents negative, to the right represents positive. So that's -4. And I have on this side 4. I picked these two numbers because I'm trying to show you exactly how the absolute value works. So looking at the positive side, you can see 4, the distance from 0 to 4 is 4 steps, which explains that when we do an absolute value of 4, we get 4. The distance from 0 is 4 steps. Now I'll do it for the negative side. You can also see something really interesting here, is that on the negative side, -4 is also 4 steps away from 0. So if I did an absolute value of -4, it would also give you 4. Why did I do -4 and 4? It shows you that despite being different signs, they are both the same distance away from 0. So absolute value, when you're looking at it, it comes with two sets of answers. It comes with a positive and it comes with a negative. Let's look at some of the top examples that we have here. Erase all this because that should have been straightforward. Here, looking at this, we have absolute value on this question. Absolute value of x equals 8. Like we said, 8 represents the number of steps away from 0. And we can see that there's both positive and negative answers to that. You have your -8, because it's 8 steps away from 0. And you also have your +8, which is also 8 steps away from 0. So your answer for the first one is x equals 8, -8. Second one is absolute value of x is equal to 7, both positive and negative. Your positive is 7, your negative is going to be -7, representing the distance away from 0. And thus we have 7 and -7. Your next one, also positive and negative for absolute value of 3, where your positive is going to be a positive is going to be a +3, and your negative is going to be -3. Both the same distance away from 0. So you have your values are 3 and -3. This is the general concept of absolute value. Now we're going to apply absolute value with equations. And like we mentioned, since they are both positive and negatives to an absolute value, we're expecting two sets of answers when it comes to equations. On the equation, you have the positive side, which I'll write out. And looking at this absolute value, when you're doing the positive, you don't account for the absolute value. So you just pretend like you're erasing this completely. So on one side, you're going to have x minus 3 equals 5. And on the opposite side, you're going to pretend like it's going to have parentheses. So it's going to be parentheses x minus 3 equals 5 with a -1 on the outside. This -1 is supposed to indicate the negative portion of the absolute value, while on the green side, there is no negative because it represents the positive. Or I can also do it like this, which is the same as just an x minus 3. So now you have both your positive and negative. Let's work on the positive side. Plus 3 on both sides, x here equals 8. Working on your negative side, you can see that the -1 is not too attached to the x the same way the 3 is. So you take -1 on both sides and you divide because it's opposite. Then you have x minus 3 equals -5 plus 3. Both sides here, x is equal to -2. So your value here comes with 2. It comes with two separate values, two different values that will make this statement correct. X is equal to 8 or it can also be -2. Both of these statements will be correct when you input it into this equation. Let's work on the second one. Second one, it may look all confusing as well, but we're also going to do that same step. We're going to pretend like it's also parentheses, and we're going to work on it right now. First thing I would do, I would divide it by 2, simply so I can get x plus 1 by itself. Now, when I drop everything down, I'll be left with the absolute value of x plus 1 equals 5. And doing the same steps that we did using this equation, we will also see that this comes with, because it's absolute value, both positive and negative portions to this question. Positive minus 1, x equals 4. Negative, x plus 1 equals -5 minus 1, where x equals -6. So your answer here would simply be x can be 4 or it can be -6. And they will both fit into our original equation, which is not that one. This is just a modification, which is this question. Let's work on this last part. For equations, we see here that it's not the simplified version. Let's sort of simplify it. -3 on both sides first. Then you have the absolute value with x plus 2 on the inside and 7 on the outside. Both positive and negative portions to it. And you see me do enough of the negative, so you would understand why I did it as x plus 2 equals a -7. Because if I take the -1 and I divide it on both sides, you're going to have -7. So here, you can understand why I made it x plus 2 equals -7. I just skipped that whole step where we did the division of the -1. On the green side, we have x equals 5. And on the red side, we have x equals -9. So this value here means that the absolute value will have two answers, 5 and -9. These are your answers for the equation part of it. And now we're going to be moving on towards our inequality versions. Now, I wrote a rule so that we can not lose track of what's going on. And this rule is important because when we're watching our previous video focused on inequalities, we learned that inequalities come in two sets. They come in the OR stage and they come in the AND stage. So looking at our rule, we'll be able to help define what kind of inequality we're working with. So when it's greater than includes greater than or equal to, or the greater than sign, which are either these two signs, we will follow or. And when it's a less than, which are these two signs, less than or equal to, it goes under and. So looking at the first one, before we even started the equation, which is this question, before we started the equation, we first look at the inequality. We see that it's greater than, so greater than means or. Knowing this, we're going to have two separate equations. We're going to have here x minus 5 is greater than or equal to 2. And on a negative, we're going to have here -1 x minus 5 greater than or equal to 2. We're going to positive, you have +5 plus 5. X is greater than or equal to 7. Now we're dividing by a -1 on both sides. And because we're doing division, of a negative on both sides, the x minus 5 will stay, but the sign will be flipped. We just do this in yellow so you can see the sign will be flipped. And the sign will be flipped. When I mark it in brown, I'll mark it be less than or equal to -2. Continue doing it in red, plus 5 on both sides. X less than or equal to 3. So this equation simply states x can be greater than or equal to 7, or x can be less than or equal to 3. And inputting either one of these back into our original equation will simply give us our answer, where you can include the 3, you can include the 7, or you can be above 7 or below the 3. Okay, now let's work on the next part. Looking now at this equation, we see here that it's an absolute value of x minus 2 and it's less than 5. Less than follows which rule? It follows and. So with our and, we know we're going to have positive. We're also going to have our negative aspect to it too. So what we do, we drop the absolute value and we include the negative, which I will show you in magenta. X minus 2. On one end, you have here your 5. On the other hand here, you have your -5. And x will fall in between these two values. Plus 2 on both sides. -3 on one side. And 3 on the other. So x is a value that is between 3 and -3. And any of those values will satisfy this equation. Right? Let's do the next one. Here we have it again. We see an equation in this one where it is first our less than sign. Less than follows which rule? And means we work on both positive and negative. So you're gonna have here -7 on one end, 2x minus 3 is less than or equal to, and 7 on the outside. Plus 3 to all of them because every one of them changes. And divide by 2 to get the answer to be -2 x on the other end and 5, which simply states that the absolute value equation that we have here with the inequality, as long as it falls in between less than or equal to, got to make sure I include these equal to, as long as it's in between -2 and 5, and we can include both, these equations will be right. This question will be right. Lastly, working on green, actually, let's do it in orange. We have here x, the absolute value of x plus 1 is greater than 4. We see that it's a greater than sign. Greater than means or. Looking at this, now we know our or means it will come with two different sets. Our green end is simply x plus 1 is greater than 4. Or in the middle, on our red side, we have x plus 1 is a less than -4. How did I get the sign to flip? And how did I get this to be a negative? I'll show you. It's because when we did our equation, it's simply x plus 1 in the parentheses, which is greater than 4. And we're dividing across an inequality, which gives us x plus 1. The sign flips and the 4 becomes negative. But to cut all of that off, you simply flip the sign and we simply make the 4 negative. That's how I answer for the other or statement is x plus 1 is less than negative 4. So we'll continue to work on the green side. We'll work on the green side first. We get negative 1, the minus 1 on both sides, which makes x greater than 3. And on the negative side, we have minus 1 on both sides. X is a less than at negative 5. So our answer here simply states x is greater than 3 or x is a less than a negative 5. And any one of these values will satisfy this rule right here if we plug it back in. As long as x is greater than 3, this question will work. As long as x is less than negative 5, this question will work with the absolute value. Now we're going to end it off with a challenge question. The challenge question. So take some time, try to see if you can do it. And from here, we'll then see what the answer is. So take some time, work on this question. Pause the video if you have to. And in a couple seconds, instead of showing you the steps first, I'll show you what the answer is first. Okay, so our answer is negative 11 less than x and 3. This is the answer that we get. Now let's break it down and work on it to see how we got from here to here. First thing you want to do, want to make this simplified. So I will first add the 6 on both sides, just to avoid some confusion. Everything else follows through. Step 1. But we're not done. We still have this 2 on the outside, divided by 2 on both sides. And this is our simplified version. So if you got from here, you guys will feel a little bit more confident and feel more comfortable. Next thing, we see we're working with inequalities of absolute values with inequalities. We first look at the sign. The sign here is less than. Less than rhymes with and, so that means our rule here will be and. With our and statement, we both have our negative, so I'll mark it here. It's negative 7. And then you have the positive. So 7 becomes both a negative and a positive. Subtract 4 on both sides. All sides. One end, you have negative 11. The x stays. And the other end, you have 3. This is how we go from there to here. And this is simply saying that as long as our values fall in between negative 11 and 3, this equation is correct. Okay, that's it for this video, guys. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Leave some comments so that way I know what you guys are struggling with. And I'll see you guys in the next one.